So I would like to start with a short meditation, also setting our motivation. And if someone else is joining us, they're welcome to join us. So let's just bring ourselves present for a moment, leaving behind any other activities from the day, even if that was getting up or a lot of other things. So let's bring ourselves present to this moment. Allow our body and mind to be relaxed and alert. Watch your breathing. And then you're in a calmer and clearer state of mind. Let's take a moment to generate our motivation, positive motivation for doing this session. Be this session of be your own therapist. So check in with yourself and ask yourself, why am I here? What do I hope to get out of this session? What aspiration or goals do I have just for the next hour or so? So as you ask yourself these questions, just allow any answers to rise to the surface. And just observe what appears in your mind as a response. And then also take a moment to check the nature of your responses that arose for you. Are they, by any chance, wishes for you to be a happier and more peaceful person? Are they concerned with your own happiness and well-being? All of us want to be happy, whatever that means for us. And all of us usually want to avoid difficulties and problems and suffering. It's from the smallest being to the largest, from human beings to animals, it doesn't matter. So if these goals and aspirations come true, what effect will that have on others? If you're more peaceful, more happy, maybe an even wiser and kinder person, will that have an effect on your surroundings? Will others also experience more happiness in their lives? Just as you want to be happy and want peace of mind and a greater well-being in your life, the exact same is true for others. Let's expand our motivation, our aspiration for this session to not only include your own well-being, but also includes the well-being of others around you. Just check if you can resonate with that. And bring our attention back to your body, to the here and now, to us as a little group. I just want to check in. Is there anything that came up in these questions? Or what arose from you for you? Anything you'd like to share from that? So, yeah, so my name is Margo van Greta. I'm here to do the Be Your Own Therapist session. For me, it's the last one of 4 sessions, but next week this theme will continue with someone else. So I just want to open the space. First of all, are there any questions? So, or any, because I'm happy to respond to whatever is up. Last week we discussed the precious human rebirth, precious human life. So if there are questions following up from that, or anything else you want me to discuss, then please speak up now, or write it in the chat. That's possible. Otherwise, I'll just chat away and bring you a topic of my choice for today. So let me know if there are any questions. But otherwise, I thought to discuss the topic of attachment. So attachment is something that's used a lot in Buddhism. So here we have this, the title is Be Your Own Therapist. So it's an opportunity to look at what can we do ourselves using then the Buddhist methods, since this is in a Buddhist context. What can we do using the Buddhist methods to help ourselves in our lives, to be more happy, more peaceful, have less problems, or if there are problems, deal with them in a better way, different way. So one of the things that often arise, and one of the problems, strangely enough, that is often identified, is the topic of attachment. So it gets used a lot in Buddhism. You may hear that you say, oh, it's better to be not so attached. You may also think, well, I have an attachment to, my children or my mom or my partner or my friend. So attachment in Buddhism is not the same as love. It's great to have love and affection for, our friends, our family, our neighbors, our colleagues. That's a very positive quality. So attachment in Buddhism is seen as an exaggeration of the reality. It's not seen as a positive quality like loving kindness and compassion and affection, but it's an exaggeration of the positive qualities of a person, an object, an idea, or a situation. So attachment is an attitude that clings to an object and really believes, like, if I have that object, then I'll be happy. And, when I say it like this, you might think, come on, that's ridiculous. Who believes that? But, check it out in your life. Because in a way, many of us think like that, think like that in situations. And we may all have our different situations or things or objects or people that we think, well, if only, I had that and that thing, then I'll be happy. if only I had that piece of chocolate cake, then I would be happy. If only I had that ice cream, with these 3 colors and then the whipped cream on top and a little, chocolatey stick and a parasol, then I'll be happy because it looks so tempting and wonderful. So, and of course, we're all intelligent people and we know the ice cream, either you eat it or you melt. So with ice cream, it's easy to see, it will not give us eternal happiness. Yet in our lives, I think we continue to behave in a way where we continuously think, that and that thing, that will bring me happiness. Then whether it's a word of praise that someone says, oh, you look so lovely, and oh, you're so good at that and that, oh, you're so intelligent, or whatever it is. Or whether it's the next job or the next, maybe it's the next partner, it's the next party, it's the next dress or the next car, or, if only the weather would be better. Here in the beginning, we were chatting about the weather. Here living in Scotland, we often think, if only the weather would be better, if only the sun would shine more, would be much nice. I would be so happy. Give me a blue sky and then I'll be happy. But, I've had days with blue sky, and then what happens? Does that make me happy forever after? Probably not, because then the next thing comes up. So in a way, it is good to be realistic about that situation, about, what does it that bring us happiness, and what happens with our attachment. So there are different types of objects or things or situations that we can be attached to. And it's good to actually notice that and see that, because the first step is to actually notice where we're attached to, instead of thinking, well, I'm not such a greedy person, I'm not doing endless shopping or endless ice cream eating or endless girlfriend hunting or endless thing. I'm not like that. But still, you may want to check your mind, if that is true, or if there are things that that you can see, like that's where the craving goes into. So Buddha described our world, our planet Earth, as the desire realm, that no matter where we are, no matter what we have, no matter how much we have, we always want something more. We always want something different. If only the next thing would happen, then I would be happy. So it's very fascinating to see, how that works. I had a situation yesterday about a party. There was someone who said, oh, are you going to that party? And then they're like, no, I didn't get an invitation. It's like, and then suddenly this craving came up, like, oh, why can I not go to that party? That will be fantastic. And I go like, parties are noisy. You have to eat all sort of food and, talk to all sort of people and waste a lot of time. And you have to bring a poem and recite a poem. And I'm not good in poems. And, so in a way, there is this fantasy word that you think like that would make me happy. But when you actually check it out, it's very different. So one of my teachers often used the example of chocolate cake, or pizza, or when we have something that generally we all, or many of us, not all, but many of us like and think, well, the chocolate cake will make me happy. But when you actually analyze it, it is an exaggeration. Chocolate cake can be pleasant and give a little bit of temporary happiness. But when you actually analyze it, our our sense of craving and anticipation and attachment and thinking about it and is very different from, just tasting a nice piece of chocolate and, move on in your life. Because sometimes what happens when we eat the piece of chocolate cake and, have the taste is only a short bit. The pleasure is only from the tongue to, to the beginning of the throat. Because when it's here or it's already in your stomach, it's actually not so healthy. But so the pleasure is only this big. While our thinking about it or our anticipation, will I get a piece? Will I get the biggest piece? Maybe I get the smallest piece of chocolate and get very unhappy because other people have a big piece and I have the small piece. Also, or when we're eating a piece of chocolate and think, the chocolate cake and think, I want another piece. And already halfway through the first piece, you already start thinking, I want another piece. Maybe I can have a second piece. How many pieces are there left? Will I get a second piece? And of course, chocolate cake is a metaphor, but I think it's a good metaphor because in a way we have these desires. So I want to check with you. So what, check in your own life. What are the people or places or ideas? Because we can also be attached to ideas. My opinion about, something and I am right. That's an idea. How attached are we? So what are the things that you are attached to? So maybe it's good to, to make it really personal and identify what sort of ideas you are attached to. Ideas or objects or people or places, is it the holiday in the sun, or is it if I only had a better job, or if I had a job, then a better job, or if I only spend more time with that and that person. So just check for yourself, maybe check your last few days. Was there anything that came up that you were attached to? And then check with that thing, how does it appear to you? Does it really have all the qualities that you think it has? In case of the chocolate cake, you can think this is delicious. It will be so rich and creamy and exciting and dark and moist and that's the fantasy. This will really be so satisfying. But then so check when you actually get the chocolate cake or get the thing. Does that really have all these qualities? Maybe they use the wrong kind of chocolate. Maybe they use milk chocolate and I only like dark. Oh, suffering. Maybe it's, whatever. Once I had Indian chocolate. It was so frustrating. You think a nice piece of delicious chocolate, but Indian chocolate is not very exciting. Sorry to say. So does the thing that we are attached to actually have these qualities? So, and I'm sure we all know in relation to, jobs or people or situations, the holiday in the sun, wherever we are actually engaging with that situation that we're so attached to. Maybe we are very satisfied, but then also that doesn't last. Or maybe it's highly disappointing. Maybe the holiday in the sun, the hotel isn't as nice as you thought it would be, or the view from your room is not very attractive, or, things happen that actually are disappointing to us. You have an attachment to a person and maybe at some point they behave in a way that you did not anticipate, or you did not wish for, or you do not appreciate. So check that for yourself. Yes, Lou. Okay, there is a question.
Why don't you do the chat first, and then I'll.
Okay, yeah, great. Today it's reducing stress, healing. You want to speak it out loud, Deb? Can you speak, or shall I read it out? Can you unmute yourself?
She wants you to read it out.
Okay, read it out. Okay. Today it's reducing stress. Wait, I need my glasses. Healing from COVID and getting energy back. Taking care of my body, feeling progress, healing from yesterday's thyroid biopsy, and getting over the pain. Doctor hunting to help me recover and feel okay about it. Searching for clients to maintain my health insurance. Okay, yeah. Not sure I'm attached to these things, but they're high priority on my mind a lot. I totally get it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And these, a lot of them seem very, very like real needs and, real situations that you say, I want to be healthy. I need an income to, pay for my health insurance, all these things. So the thing is, the difference, I think there is a difference between attachment and like a real need. Because yes, to become healthy, I think that's a real need. And, earn enough to pay your health insurance and pay the rent or, go buy yourself food. That's a real need. I think with all these things, there is a difference between attachment and or wanting these things without being attached to them. So that is something that is like a practice or an attitude in Buddhism, that there is an encouragement. So when we work with ourselves, to actually explore what's going on. So if we, you talk about reducing stress and healing from COVID, that's all, I think they're all very worthwhile, projects to be engaged in. Now, is it possible to be engaged in them without being attached to them? Because of course, when you're ill, of course, then, you want to get better. Definitely, totally. Is there a, the encouragement is to hold then that vision, that goal, to get better and to recover from COVID and get your energy back without being attached to it. So then, of course, it is very, very meaningful and very necessary to get, to reduce your stress, to recover from COVID, to get clients and all these things without being attached to it, without thinking, when I recover from COVID, when I have the stress reduced, then everything will be fine. Because then, who knows? There may be other things happening that are, challenging or obstacles or. So of course we need to, focus on getting healthy, reducing stress, getting clients, without being attached to them. Yeah, does that make sense? And that is a practice, of course, that is something to actually work with, because that doesn't always happen like that. But that is in a way why we, I want to go a bit through that, through those statements. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of stressors, and there are many, a lot of stresses. Yeah. Join the club, yes. And we, in a way, we need to deal with them and deal with our stresses and challenges, and, not like give up on them, but work with them bit by bit, but also knowing that, without the attachment. There's this story of a farmer who was very, I hope I'm not sure it's a Buddhist story. I think it is. a farmer had, there was, I think it's from the Chinese tradition, a farmer had a son and had a horse, and at some point the horse ran away. So everybody surrounding them said, like, oh, poor you, your horse ran away. And then he said, we'll see. And then the horse came back with a couple of other horses. So then the villager said to the old man, lucky you, now you got 3 horses. You're so lucky. And the old man said, we'll see. And I mean, it has more steps, but at some point, the eldest son was kicked by one of the horses. And then the village said, oh, poor you, your son got kicked by the horse and broke his leg. Oh, poor you, how sad. And the old man said, we'll see. And then it seemed there was a war, and the army was recruiting young men. And they took all the young men from the village, except the son with the broken leg. So then again, the villager said, oh, lucky you, your son didn't get taken to the army. And again, the man said, we'll see. So that is in a way a story of we don't know, we don't always know what the results are of our actions and our situations. So, and so for me, the meaning of this story is to, in a way, be more attached and of the ups and downs of life. Of course, breaking a leg or losing something, you think, oh, that's bad. And in a way, you don't know. Who knows? Are there any gifts even in that challenging situation? So it just popped in my mind. I hope it's okay to share that. Yeah. Lou, you also had a question or comment or something?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, you can also get attached to a state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I had a very deep depression for a very, very long time. And as it went along, I found out that I was getting so attached to the feeling of being depressed, and it felt so comfortable. And it felt like that's the way I've always been, and that's the way I should be, that I resisted any of the attempts to break me out of the depression. It just felt so comfortable where I was. I was just attached to it because it was like an old friend.
Yes.
But then, I finally got, I finally recovered from it. And looking back on it, it was just, I mean, I can see how I felt and why I felt, but it's just strange, that's all, that you can get attached to something that's really not that good for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, a great example. Yeah, because it is familiar and in a way like safe. So yes,
Comfortable.
yeah.
And the other thing is that when you're speaking about being attached to a concept, especially for me with food, when I see food that I'm about to eat, in my mind, I already have a picture of what I want it to be like.
Yes.
And even though when I eat the food, I enjoy it, it always never, ever meets what I thought it would be. It's not conscious. It's just that I know that it's not this picture that I had in my mind.
Yes.
And when I do eat something like a really good piece of cake that exceeds my expectations, it just sets a new level of expectation. So it makes it that much harder to ever meet it.
Yes.
Those are the two things that came up.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's spot on, because that's what we do. I used to work in a kitchen here in the Vindhorn community, and I sometimes I started to see how. So there was always cooked for like 150 people, that sort of thing, for a community. So I started to notice that often people became attached, but we're almost more interested in a label than in the reality. You mentioned food. Because when I say, well, tonight we're eating a bit of dough with a bit of onions on top and a bit of cheese and a bit of tomato, and so really, no one will get excited. But when I say, tonight we eat pizza, then everybody gets wild. Tonight, pizza, fantastic. Well, the reality is it is just pastry with a few bits and pieces on top, and you put it in the oven, Or when I just say we eat brown rice with veggies tonight, and people are like, "Oh, really?" But there was not much positive response. But when I put on the menu board, like tonight it's nasi goreng. It's in Holland, here in the community, it's quite a popular Indonesian dish, which is rice and veggies with a sauce. And then people would get really excited. So I think that was also like, sometimes I think people get more interested in the fantasy, in the idea, in the label, than in the reality. Like, does it actually taste good? So, yeah, so very interesting to have your own examples. So then the next question is, are we aware of our unrealistic expectations of this person or this thing or this situation? Thinking that, when this situation has changed or has arrived, then I'll be happy. So I think that is very, very interesting to check. Do we have that idea that, when I'm not sick anymore? I used to be sick years ago. I used to be extremely sick for 5 months. And, of course, that was pretty scary. I wasn't sure I was going to live. And, that was not so easy. So, of course, then you think like, when I'm better, then it will be good. And of course, it is important to be healthy, definitely. But then also the next thing will happen and arrive. So just check, do we have an unrealistic expectation of when I have achieved that other thing? And also, the question is, how does that attachment make us act? So does attachment, does that actually say my attachment to this new thing or new situation is so strong? Does it actually affect our ethical behavior? Or do we say, this is so important for me, it's more important than anything else? Because that can then get us into dysfunctional relationships, or does it actually change our ethical standards? That we think this is so important, I'll do anything in my life to get into that situation. So, or are we becoming very needy or clinging? So just again, check, not to beat ourselves up, but to check in our own lives, like what does it do? So then also the interesting thing is to actually apply the antidote, because the whole reason to actually check up and be mindful of our habits and patterns and of our attachments is then also to check it out and apply antidotes. So one of them is to check if you possess this thing or this person or this situation, this thing that you are wanting, that you are attached to. If you get your way, will it bring you lasting happiness? Just check. Will it bring you lasting happiness and satisfaction? Or be realistic, like what new problems could arise, not to make you depressed or down or saying that then you shouldn't go for this thing that you want, but just to be more realistic. So this new situation, when you're healthy, or when we have that job, or when we have that relationship, or when we have that, that nice meal, is there, what other problems might arise? Just to be realistic, not to make us depressed, but to be realistic about that situation. Because then when we are more realistic, then we can make better decisions and deal with it in a more realistic way. Also, one of the things that has helped me a lot in my life is to look at something we are craving, we are wanting, we are we have an attachment to, and that we at the moment we feel we don't have, because sometimes we have an attachment to something and we got it. Well, then, there's usually not so much problem anymore. I think the problem arises when we have an attachment to something and we feel like, well, we don't get it. We don't have it, or not right now. Maybe we had it in the past, but we don't have it right now. That's where the tension arises. So one actually technique or strategy or supportive practice to do is to rejoice in the times when we had that. So to rejoice in, all the other times when we did eat the chocolate cake, or when we were healthy, or when we, the meal did taste good, or we had the situation, we were at peace, or we had the situation that we now are craving. So that is one strategy. The rejoicing is actually a very powerful practice. Rejoicing in the times when we had that, or rejoicing in other people who have that what we actually want, or that we are craving, that we have an attachment to. So it seems almost counterintuitive, because when we are in a certain state, let me use the example of the party. And other people go to the party and I'm not, and I can go like, poor me. I can also say how wonderful that these people go to this party. How absolutely fantastic. They're so happy, and they might, have a nice time and eat nice things or have nice conversations. Wonderful. And that's actually, it does something energetically. Try it out, try it out, to actually rejoice in people on the party, or people who are healthy, or people who, who have delicious meals, or whatever it is, are stress-free. To check that, to actually practice rejoicing. It's, practice it for a week. And it is a very powerful practice. And in a way, you can immediately feel, like, maybe we can do it right now, to actually take one of these situations and rejoice in the times when we were actually in that situation, or had our needs met, or other people who have that needs met. And just check how that feels. What it can do, it can bring us more optimism. So, is that a practice? I don't know. Does that work? If you notice that it's, it has an effect, then let me know. I'm curious about that. So in another practice, sure, you use it often. Great, that's fantastic. Deb, you're really doing good. That's a great, great to hear. Yeah, great to hear that, because I think that can be very powerful. Yeah, beautiful. You're doing really well. Good. Rejoice. Now we can rejoice in you. Right. That's brilliant. So another piece of advice that sometimes can help is imagine giving the thing or person or situation that you are attached to. Imagine giving it to somebody else. who receives it with joy. So imagine, the situation you want to offer it, make it as an offering to other people. Or if you're into Buddhism, you can imagine that you offer that thing or person or situation to the Buddha. So make an offering of all these stress-free situations or healthy situations or delicious parties or delicious meals or all the things that we may want. Offer it up to other people or to the Buddha. So that's another practice to counteract our attachment. So how does that sound? Any questions or comments or observations? Lou, yes.
One thing I've noticed is that sometimes, like when I was young, I wanted to be old. And I spent so much time about thinking about what it'd be like when I got older and I could do this and I could do that, that when you spend time doing that, you don't have that time to enjoy whatever it is you're doing now. It's like it steals, the future is stealing your enjoyment from the present. Pretend enjoyment that you may or may not happen steals the enjoyment that you have right now.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely, yeah, because it doesn't allow you to be in the here and now with whatever is around, but you're thinking about the future situation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great point of view, a great perspective to have, a great insight to have. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, lovely. Yes, very appropriate. Mm-hmm. Okay. Question, something from that. Mm-hmm. Is rejoicing an action or an attitude? Is it quiet and internal? Is it a thought? Is it a virtue, an ethos, value? Yes. Yes, it is. I think that's a good question. Because in a way it is an action, because thinking about myself, it's not something that comes natural. So then it is an action. We can actually say, do it now. It can be for me, I think for many of us, can be an active choice to say, now I need to do this. Otherwise I can go, into a state of self-pity or depression, or like a low, other people have something and I don't. So it is an active choice to say, let me do this now. And I think if we do it regularly, I think it can become an attitude. I think for some people it comes very easy or natural, and for others it might be more like, come on, I tell myself, come on, Margo, do it, rejoice, it's good for you, you learned it in Buddhism, you've done it before in your life, and it was really having great results, so do it again. And I go like, oh yeah, okay. So I think when we do it more and more regularly, then it can become an attitude. That's how I see it. And quiet and internal, I think yes. I think, what do I think? What do you think, Deb? I think it starts maybe internally, and I don't know, maybe you can verbalize it, but I think for me, I think it starts internally and quiet, and I don't know, dancing and movement isn't quiet. What do you mean? Not sure what you mean. Rejoicing can be loud, yes, it's true, yeah, it can be. Absolutely. I think it can take any form that you want or need. I think it starts internal with a sense of like a shift in attitude. And then absolutely, if you have the energy to dance around or the energy to speak it out, that's also what I was thinking. If we speak out our rejoicing to other people and say, how wonderful you have this or that, or you're so good in that and that, how fantastic. That's another way of rejoicing. But yeah, whatever form or shape it takes, I think. Yeah. And is it a virtue? Yes, I think it is. In Buddhism, it is one of the positive qualities, one of the positive actions, rejoicing. It is certainly a virtue if you can do that. To be happy in someone else's happiness, or be happy if someone else wins the first prize, or someone else gets a good job, or whatever, gets the biggest piece of chocolate cake. You can rejoice in that. Yeah, I think it's a very powerful practice to actually always counteract our in a way our selfishness. In Buddhism, they often talk about the wish for our own happiness. And of course, it needs to be relative, but in a way, our sense of ego gets diminished when we actually appreciate and rejoice in others' happiness and others' achievements. So it is and you can either keep that quiet or verbalize that. Someone else might be very appreciating that reminder and that positive sound. How does that sound? So these are just my thoughts, but I think it's very, you sound very good to explore that. Mm-hmm. How it is different from happiness. Well, I think rejoicing is happiness can be just a feeling of I'm happy, I'm fine, I'm happy for either through outer circumstances or through an inner state of happiness. And rejoicing, how I understand rejoicing, is more an act of saying, I decide to be happy for some reason, either for myself or for others. So it is more an active, active being happy in a certain situation. It's more like a choice rather than it just happens. Rejoicing is like an active state, saying, I decide to be happy. I rejoice that, I live in this nice house. I can be happy anyway, but rejoicing is like an active state, saying like, I actually make a point of thinking that, and instead of saying, yeah, I'm happy here, but I've been here now more than a year, so I don't think about it every day. If someone asks me, are you happy there? I say, yeah, I'm happy there. But rejoicing is actually more like an active action and an active state, saying, I decide that I am happy here. I'm not thinking I wish I had a bigger house or a different or whatever. Just saying, I'm actually actively rejoicing in this situation. So yeah, so that's how I see it's different from happiness. But I'm sure you can debate about the difference. So what is your thoughts, Deborah? Deb. Agreed. Okay. Mm-hmm. Good. Mm-hmm. Mm. So let's just take a moment. We have another couple of minutes So any other questions or comments around this topic? Let's just take a moment to reflect on this session. So we have been exploring attachment. So we've been thinking of a certain object of our attachment. And what people, places, ideas, situations we are attached to. Bringing our specific examples. Reflecting on how that situation or person or thing appears to us. Does it thing we are attached to, does it really have all the qualities that we perceive? Just check it out. So check, do we have any unreal expectations of the person or thing or situation? Thinking that once we have it, it will always be there. It will continuously make us happy. Just check how realistic are our expectations. And then how does our attachment make us act? Does it change your ethical standards to get what you're attached to? Do you get pushy or needy or clinging? Get into dysfunctional relationships? Become manipulative or aggressive? Just check. And then we can use some antidotes, again, by reflecting on certain points. So if you possess this thing or person or situation, or if you get your way, will it bring lasting happiness and satisfaction? Just check. What new problems could arise? Not making us depressed, but just being realistic. Does any external person or situation or thing have the ability to bring you lasting happiness? If you separate from this, what's the worst thing that could happen? Is it likely to happen? What resources can help you deal with that situation? Look back at the thing or person or situation that you now feel separated from. And rejoice at the time you had that situation. Or thing, person. Even imagine giving this thing or person or situation to someone else who needs it. And then let's take a moment to bring the positive energy of our whole session, reflecting, listening, speaking, discussing, meditating, on a more realistic state of mind. Recognizing the disadvantages of attachment and help us let go of attachment. Feeling more balanced and free to enjoy without clinging or without pushing. May this be of benefit to all beings. Thank you. So, thank you very much. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Lou, for being here.
Thank you all.
There will be someone else doing this class next week, and I'll be back in July on this same slot, the beginning.
Okay.
Thank you, and
All right.
blessings to you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.